10th spot, we have Operation London Bridge. Right away on the day of the Queen's passing, Operation London Bridge was to come into effect. Prime Minister Liz Truss would have received the news of Her Majesty's passing right away, and she would have been one of the first people to have been told. This message would have been delivered by the Queen's private secretary. The civil servants would have been notified next, and the media outlets, starting with the royal social media platforms. The flags would then be moved to half-mast. Then the Ministry of Defense would do a gun salute, and a minute of silence would be taken around the country. The royal family zoomed into Balmoral to see the Queen just before she passed, and were there by her side as she left us. The British people observed a double rainbow over Buckingham Palace that day. If you're enjoying this video so far, please give us a thumbs up as it'll really help us out. In our number 9 spot, we have King Charles's first step. The day after the Queen passed, right away it was instructed that Prince Charles will be sworn in as the new sovereign by the Accession Council. This means that he will be proclaimed king until his coronation or until he decides to step down and give the throne to his eldest son, Prince William. If all goes well, this should happen the morning after the Queen's death at 10 a.m. His title will change to King Charles III. In our number 8 spot, we have the Accession Council and further title changes. The second part of the Accession Council is attended by the king and other senior royals. For the first time in history, we will get to see this centuries-old ritual because it will be broadcasted live. So cool. Most of us alive today wouldn't have been around or old enough to have witnessed the Queen's coronation, so this is very exciting. Prince William, the next in line to the throne after King Charles, will be given the new title of Duke of Cornwall, and Kate will become Duchess of Cornwall, replacing Camilla, who technically becomes Queen, but she will be given the title of Queen Consort, a wish made by Queen Elizabeth before she passed. His title will change to King Charles III. This day has also since passed, and I must say I'm actually surprised that King Charles didn't decide to pass the crown on to his son. I think a lot of the British people expected him to, but in any case, Prince William will eventually have his day as king. Following the Accession Council, the king will return to Buckingham Palace to meet with the senior politicians and church leaders. In our number 7 spot, we have Operation Unicorn. Since the Queen passed away at Balmoral, the family has strict instructions upon returning her to Buckingham Palace. This is called Operation Unicorn. Operation Unicorn will be activated, and it will mean that the Queen's coffin will be transported to London via royal train. If Operation Unicorn fails, then a new operation takes effect, and that is Operation Overstudy. This is a strict instruction for the coffin to then be transported by plane. The Prime Minister and ministers will welcome the coffin upon arrival at Buckingham Palace. In our number 6 spot, we have D-Day plus 3. D-Day represents Death Day, so about 3 days after the Death Day, Charles will receive the motion of condolence at Westminster Hall, and then he will begin his tour of the United Kingdom as the new king. He has been instructed to attend a service in Northern Ireland at St. Anne's Cathedral in Belfast. In our number 5 spot, we have the rehearsal plus D-Day plus 5. While King Charles III is on his tour, a rehearsal for Operation Lion will be taking place. Operation Lion is when the Queen's coffin will be carried from Buckingham Palace to the Palace of Westminster. This will be around D-Day plus 5. When the coffin arrives, a service will be held in Westminster Hall. In our number 4 spot, we have D-Day plus 6 to D-Day plus 9. Operation Feather is now going to be in effect. Such interesting titles. I wonder if the Queen chose them herself. When I die, I'm gonna leave strict instructions for my loved ones and call it Operation Magical Fairy. Instead of taking my coffin on a tour, I shall instruct my family to go on a tour around the world with my ashes. I better start saving though, so they can do that. They definitely don't have a royal budget to complete this wish. Anyways, back to Operation Feather. It states that for the next 3 days, the coffin will stay at Westminster and the Queen will lie in state, so visitors can come to pay their respects. The coffin will be placed on a raised box and will be available for 23 hours a day for those 3 days. I would have thought that it would only have been for select people such as friends, family, and politicians, but apparently anyone can visit. There is expected to be about 10,000 plus people, so I would leave now to line up. I bet you the line is going to be insane, like standing in Times Square on New Year's. There probably won't be anywhere to move. I wish I lived in England. I would definitely have gone to pay my respects. The public will be able to pay their respects as of September 14th, 2022. In our number 3 spot, we have more traveling for King Charles. King Charles is expected to travel to Wales during this time to receive a third motion of condolence at the Welsh Parliament. This is projected to happen around D-Day +7. The King will also attend a service at Llandaff Cathedral in Cardiff. Also during this time, the rehearsals for the funeral will be taking place. On the morning of September the 19th, 2022. In our number 2 spot, we have the funeral. The funeral for Queen Elizabeth II will be held at Westminster Abbey. Processions will take place in London and Windsor, and a committal service will take place at St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. The Queen is to be buried in the castle's King George VI Memorial Chapel. There will be a 2-minute silence at midday in the country. Before she passed, the Queen agreed that her funeral day would be a day of national mourning, and so it effectively became a bank holiday. Apparently though, if the funeral falls on a weekday, the government does not plan to order businesses to let their employees have a day off. The businesses can individually decide on this though. In our number 1 spot, we have mourning plus the King's official coronation. Following the funeral, the country will go into a period of mourning. Even though King Charles would have automatically become king when the Queen passed, his official coronation will not take place for some time. It is predicted to be months later or as late as a year after. Queen Elizabeth had her coronation more than a year after she had been ruling. The delay is most likely due to the fact that there will be an enormous amount of planning for the event that will need to take place. The ceremony will most likely take place at Westminster Abbey, as it has done for the last 900 years. It will be done most likely by the Archbishop of Canterbury, as it has been done since year 1066.
Coming in at number 9 is mass hysteria. I don't think we quite realize how old the Queen is. Like, she lived through Hitler, the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK, Nixon, basically everything, and she's still here. Most people have never even known life without the Queen and don't even know a world where she's not there, like me included. I can't even think of a world that she's not in. She's always been alive as long as I have. Honestly, the public will be an absolute mess. She is so loved, she's been alive for so bloody long that every single generation will feel it no matter how old you are. When Princess Diana and the Queen Mother died, the public reaction was unparalleled. When Princess Diana died, tens of thousands of people came to lay flowers at the palace, more than 1 million bouquets were left, and a memorial appeal raised £20 million. People were out there waiting 10 hours or more just to sign the memorial books. So imagine what kind of chaos and mass hysteria would break loose if the Queen died. It won't just be a minute of silence at football games. Her dying is a literal punch to the gut of the nation's psyche. But I'm not an English teacher. She's the only British monarch to have celebrated her Sapphire Jubilee, which is 65 years on the throne. If she's alive for 3 more years, she'd make it to the Platinum Jubilee. It's not just a political figure dying, you guys, it's like someone close to you dying. We can't have it. We can't have it! She can't die! At number 8, we have George, Charlotte, and Louis. Yes, the 3 beautiful children of Prince William and Kate Middleton, who have also been the source of many internet memes throughout their short but very rich lives. Honestly, losing a great-grandparent is horrible for anyone, whether you are particularly close to them or not. When the Queen of England happens to be your great-grandma, things are a bit different, you know, like she just raised the bar of great-grandmas quite high. Either way, we all know what grandmas do. They overfeed us, tell us stories from the day of yore that we pretend to be interested in, and interestingly, they always smell like baby powder. Is that just me? I just feel like they all do. The 3 have probably bonded with their royal great-grandma loads, which makes losing her awful. They'll most likely stop being overfed after her death, and so they'll no longer have those chubby cheeks, and since she herself is a cheeky bugger but the kids' own parents are quite serious, that cheekiness will also die along with her. So really, when she dies, the kids will just become skinny, boring royal kids that no one will be interested in. Filling our number 7 slot is Archie. We've done Prince Harry and Kate's kids, and now we move on to Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, the son of Prince Harry and Hollywood royalty Meghan Markle. Now, since Archie was only born a few months ago, he's currently a small potato that has absolutely no idea who he is, what his birth means, the fact he's royal and rich, and the fact his entire life will be infinitely better than mine. Great. Now hypothetically, say the Queen dies soon, like before his 3rd or 4th birthday, he's not gonna remember her. Let's be real. He's not gonna gonna know who the hell she was. He won't even remember his life till he's like 5 at least. Like, does anyone remember their life before they were 5 or 6? Because I don't. I just realized even if she dies before he's 4, I would have known Queen Elizabeth better than him, and I'm not even related to her. But with that will come the bullying. You see, when Archie grows up, he won't be able to flex on all these hoes about his great grandma, because let's face it, he didn't know her. Charlotte, George, and Louis will get all the clout for knowing her, being her favorites and whatnot, but where does that leave Archie? Getting bullied by all the other rich kids, that's where. You snooze, you lose, Archie, sorry. Now at number 6 is the economy. Let's face it, when the Queen dies, things are really gonna go up for a while. For at least 2 weeks after she dies, with the whole funeral and new monarch coming to Ascension, Britain will literally stop. They're estimated to lose billions in earnings because banks and the London Stock Exchange will close. The coronation and funeral will obviously become national holidays, which will lose Britain anywhere from 1.2 billion to 6 billion pounds. That is a lot of money, you guys, and since basically every shop will close down for at least a day or two, the country will actually just be at a standstill for a while, and that in and of itself is damn scary. Coming in at number 5 are memes. Honestly, some of the best memes I've seen on the internet right now are of Queen Elizabeth, like the one where she's sitting there in the pink looking all and like cute and small. That is for sure one of my favorites. Another one of her wearing that khaki bonnet over her headscarf and looking like she's having an absolute nightmare of a time. Have you seen that? I feel like everyone's seen that meme. It's so funny, and it's honestly just me 24/7. Like, that is my mood 24/7. Queen Elizabeth in that bonnet. Just not happy to be here. Just have to be here anyway. But my absolute favorite one is the one where she's got this like bougie white coat around her and she has the crown and a bunch of diamonds and she's just smiling into your soul like she's just eaten your whole family. Like, I didn't even know the Queen could look like a cannibal, but apparently she can in this photo. Also, I mean, God save the Queen, honestly, and save our meme game. At number 4 is the Commonwealth. Now, as the sovereign of all 16 Commonwealth realms, Queen Elizabeth II is essentially their head of state, even though they are all independent and have their own prime ministers and so forth. It's said that when the Queen dies, Prince Charles will take the throne and most likely reinforce his support to all the Commonwealth realms. Well, that's what he's expected to do, but what if he doesn't? What if he becomes power hungry because he's been waiting to be king for so long that he brings back the British Empire and wants to be the king of all the realms? As in, not just a distant king that offers troops and support here and there. No, I'm talking dictator. It's my way or the highway sort of king. So that's Britain and Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and a lot of islands in the Caribbean. All of which would be dictated by Prince Charles, and God knows what he'd do once the Queen is offed. All of which would be dictated by Prince Charles, and God knows what he'd do once the Queen is offed. Also, can we just talk a second about the fact that it's called Commonwealth Realms? Like, what is this? Are we in like the archaic times of realms? Like, come on people, no. Now at number 2 is Prince William. So compared to Prince Harry, Prince William is more of a royal poster boy, let's say. Yeah, he had his fun wild days back in the day when he was in university and after when him and Kate would break up for a little while, but compared to Harry, it was pretty tame, so we just let it slide. But 6 months ago though, there were rumors that William cheated on Kate with their friend Rose, the Marchioness of Cholmondeley. Even Giles Corran, a well-connected member of the media who's been reporting on the royals for years, apparently confirmed he knew about the affair and that everyone did as well. On another boys' holiday skiing trip, William was photographed dancing with a woman that was clearly not Kate, since she was at the palace taking care of the kids. So hopefully the death of his grandma will jolt him back to reality and make him loyal. Men and loyalty? That's scary. I said what I said. And finally, at number 1 is the joke, and this one isn't as much scary as it is me hoping this will be true. Now, as I previously mentioned, this specific royal family really does live long. They have long lives, like century-long lives. And touch wood, I mean, I hope they continue to, but also please let me in on your secrets, like what the hell, I want to live that long too. But either way, I'm theorizing that when Queen Elizabeth dies, she won't actually die. She'll somehow be preserved or given some immortality elixir that will keep her going. Or get this, perhaps that's gonna be the time they finally tell us that Princess Diana hasn't really been dead this whole time, she's just been hiding with her lover and now she's back. No, not even just Diana, think even the Queen Mother. Imagine the day Queen Elizabeth dies. The headline the next day is just a picture of these 3 powerful women alive and better than ever, and the headline's gonna be like, "We're back." Scary, but I'd pay to see it.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the rules of the road. This rule is probably one of the craziest things I've ever heard, but I guess it's been around for quite a while and I just had no idea. Turns out the monarch is the only person in the UK who is allowed to drive without a legal license or even license plates. I mean, what? That's so insane. I didn't expect the king to have to take a driver's test like everyone else, but just having a rule that allows them, if they chose, to drive without any idea how? It truly is just absolutely bizarre. The good news is though, which makes this rule make a lot more sense, is that of course, rather than driving himself, King Charles' chauffeur will be much more responsible for most of the driving for the king. Let's just hope the chauffeur has their driver's license. In our number 9 spot today, we have the armed forces. One of the most intimidating parts of his new role is that King Charles will now become the head of the armed forces. This means that it is his responsibility and he is the only person who can declare when the country is at war and when the war is over. Of course, he won't be doing this entirely alone. He needs to follow the advice and guidance of the government. Can't just randomly declare war. The perhaps good news is that the new king has held quite close ties to the armed forces throughout his life, even spending time in the Royal Navy and taking flying instruction from the Royal Air Force during his second year at Cambridge University. Of course, the hope is that he won't be in a position to make these difficult decisions, but when or if he's faced with them, we can hope he makes the proper decisions for the country. In our number 8 spot today, we have the church. King Charles won't only be the head of the armed forces, but he will also become the head of the church in England. Quite a jump from talking about war and being the one who makes those kinds of decisions to being the head of the church, where things are hopefully quite the opposite, more peaceful. This is a post that British monarchs have held since the church was founded by King Henry VIII in the 1500s, and it appears as though the tradition will carry on. In this role, it means that King Charles will be responsible for appointing archbishops and bishops to their role. The king will be, of course, advised in this role by the Prime Minister. It is said that the king is religious in his own right and that he has already spoken about how his personal faith has informed his approach to leadership. In our number 7 spot today, we have gifts. The king has a duty to accept all of the gifts he receives, and not only that, but he has to accept them graciously. Apparently, it is actually quite customary for the royal family to receive every gift that is handed to them during royal engagements. Of course, people are always wanting to gift the royal family things, but like the Queen once had the power to do, it is now up to King Charles who in the family is allowed to keep the gifts they've been given. That would be a super strange meeting, but hey, there are some weird rules the royal family has to follow. In our number 6 spot today, we have never travel in pairs. This is one travel rule that certainly makes sense, but it is quite dark when you really think about it. This rule is that any heirs to the throne are not allowed to travel together, which means that the king is going to be traveling differently than he once used to. This is of course in case some sort of accident happens. Not every heir to the throne would be injured or perhaps killed. It's definitely very smart and very sensible, but it has got to be grim, just constantly preparing for the worst thing to happen. It is of the utmost importance to the royal family that they preserve the line to the throne. This travel rule is actually becoming more frequent among even other people outside of the royal family who can afford this type of luxury. In our number 5 spot today, we have the black outfit. Another travel rule that the family must follow is in regards to an item they must bring with them. It is unusual to see the royal family dressed in black, despite when a specific occasion calls for it, but every time they travel, they are required to bring an all-black outfit with them. This is again to prepare for the worst case scenario. If they are away on a trip and someone important passes away, they need to ensure that they are ready with the appropriate clothing for when they are able to touch down on their home soil. This is pretty practical, but also definitely pretty morbid. I mean, imagine having to fuss over what you're gonna wear when you're actually just mourning the loss of someone close to you. Certainly wouldn't be the top of my list for me, but clearly I am no royal. In our number 4 spot today, we have no touching. There is a rule that you just cannot touch a royal. I'm sure there are a multitude of reasons for this, most to do with security, but aside from a lucky handshake, you really are supposed to keep your distance. I suppose it's because I live the life of a regular person, but I feel like that would be so sad. I feel like you'd be lacking in so much connection with a ton of interesting people, and wouldn't you just be dying to hug some of the nice people you meet? Maybe that's just the Canadian in me. Apparently, this is part of the reason why the Queen always wore gloves. She of course shook a lot of hands while out making her royal appearances, and the same will likely go for the new king. Maybe he'll take up gloves as a fashion accessory, just like his mother. In our number 3 spot today, we have the dinner choices. There are plenty of strange rules when it comes to royal dinner etiquette, but this one might be the most strange. I'm not exactly sure if King Charles enjoyed much seafood during his time as the Prince of Wales, but if he did, those days might be coming to an end rather soon. Apparently, the palace recommends that His Highness not indulge in shellfish. No shrimp, no lobster, you get the idea. This is meant to be for his safety, of course, because apparently it is believed that shellfish causes food poisoning more than any other type of food, so unfortunately the king won't be heading to the local Red Lobster anytime soon. In our number 2 spot today, we have no autographs. This is a rule that the king won't be much of a stranger to, as it's a rule for the entire royal family. Of course, in this day and age, people often ask their favorite celebrities for autographs, or more likely now, a selfie, but the royal family isn't allowed to stop for these kinds of interactions. For autographs, it makes a ton of sense. It's a safety measure to ensure that no forgers can learn to mimic the handwriting of royalty. I totally understand that. For selfies, it's less of an official rule and more just to do with etiquette. When meeting a member of royalty, it is important to never turn your back on them, so asking the new king to squeeze in behind you for a photo would definitely be discouraged. An act of admiration might just have the new king feeling a little bit slighted. In our number 1 spot today, we have opinions. This is probably my favorite of all of the rules we have today, which is exactly why I saved it for the number 1 spot. During the king's time as the Prince of Wales, Charles has certainly been known for having quite a vocal approach to different social issues and whatever the current affairs have been. He's an outspoken individual, and that doesn't always sit well with people. Fair enough, but now that he's the king, he does have some different expectations. He is now expected to not make his constituents feel uncomfortable or alienated, which means that he won't be allowed to be such a champion of certain issues. This basically means that the king needs to keep some more of his opinions to himself, which I'm sure is gonna make some people happy.